fighting out of Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, Damien Brown.
What's up, folks? Welcome to the Wireless Podcast. I'm your host, Damien Brown, UFC and Army veteran. I created the Wireless Podcast to cover all things sport, lifestyle, physical and mental health. It's not about me, it's about the listeners. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook at Beatdown155 or subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Wireless Podcast, and hopefully we can produce some wicked content for you in the near future.
And welcome to the Wireless, folks. We're here today with Shaun O'Gorman. How are you, man?
Good, mate. How are you?
Fantastic. So, it's good to have you on,
mate. My pleasure to be here. So good.
So early in my episodes, but thanks for making the drive. So basically, I thought we'll just give it a kick off today with just explaining like who you are for the listeners and what you do now, I guess, and then we'll go back over it.
Perfect. So I run the Strong Life Project, which is my business around human behaviour and high performance. The very short version, I was a cop for 13 years. Left the police 19 years ago now with PTSD, depression, battled suicide badly. Went through a pretty hectic few years with alcohol, recreational drugs, pretty destructive. Then my daughter was born in 2005, really turned me around. So I spent the last now 15 years doing a lot of personal development and eventually more or less just fell into coaching and mentoring other people. And now I work with athletes, CEOs, mum and dad, business owners, whoever, really just helping people get their best. So it's about high performance in your life and, you know, people who are partners in law firms to people who run their own marketing businesses to whatever. I even do a bit of work with some teenage kids around different things. So, mate, a whole lot of it for me is just about personal, people being their best, bringing their best, being the best every day. And that for me now, I love, like the business is amazing. Like I feel so blessed to be able to do what I do. That's such a passion. It doesn't feel like work. Yeah. And it's a long way from where I was, 2 decades ago where I wanted to shoot myself. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that's a massive difference. It's funny that we can sit here and laugh about that.
Absolutely. Yep, totally.
But because there's plenty of people out there that don't get that opportunity, right, to turn their life around and have a laugh about it later on.
And that's the thing, mate. Like I'm so lucky, Damo, because I think we talked about before we went on air here, right? Like I've got an addictive, obsessive personality. You're similar. That when I was in a destructive mode, I did it to an elite level. When now when I'm in a recovery mode and even now an evolution mode of being the best person I can be, I do that to the best level I can, training, diet, whatever it might be. And I can laugh about it now because I go, well, it was a horrible time, but it was one of the best opportunities to teach me the best things to be where I am. If I had lived a normal, mediocre life, I wouldn't be anywhere near as happy as I am now.
We'd still be living that life, right?
100%.
You think that that's normal.
And there's not enough pain. The only way we change is pain. There's got to be an immense amount of pain for people to change behaviours. Yeah. I got myself to a point, I was in the police dog squad for years, where it's all really violent jobs. So it's all, armed robberies, domestic violence, car chases, fights. I've been shot at, people tried to stab me. So coming out of that, I was obsessive in that job. So I buried myself, didn't look after myself with nutrition, sleep, anything. So out the other side now, I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Now I know who I am at 50 years of age. It's about really focusing that self-awareness in to be the best you can be.
You're 50.
50, mate. Hell, and I look better than you. Hey?
Settle down.
I look younger than you do.
Settle down. You've had people trying to fight you, not fighting you. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly right, mate. Yeah, correct. I had a dog, so I was a really good fighter with the dog.
So why the police force? Where did it start?
Mate, my old man was a cop, so my uncle was a cop. That, from the time I can remember, I remember being 6 years of age, I went to the police academy for open day, and they had police dogs there jumping through fences and biting people, and I was like, yep, that's me. So pretty much, mate, that's all I was ever going to do. Joined at 19, and it was great. Like, it was the best fun. I would go back and do it again all over, but I'm glad I'm not doing it now.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, myself from being infantry and being deployed, you don't want to be in the army because it's the fucking worst organisation in the world. But at the same time, you go and do that job again with your mates.
100%.
And deploy and do everything you were sort of like trained to do, but you don't want you wish you're happy you're not there now, but you'd go and do it again tomorrow.
Mate, absolutely. And you're happy. One of my things, I don't have regrets. I refuse to have regrets in my life. But I go, one of the things I would probably do if I had my time over knowing what I know now, which is stupid because you don't, I would have gone and probably joined military before I went to the police.
Yeah.
And just because it's that same thing, it's about service of community, service of country. Like I love the fact that I spent 13 years serving my community and do something that most people can't do, similar to military. But I'm also glad at 50 years of age, I'm not that cranky old prick who's cruising around now 30 kilos overweight and hating his life.
Imagine the stars you'd have on your shoulder, but
I'd have none.
yeah, probably not.
It's on merit. It's on merit. Exactly. It's on merit being a good guy, so I'd have none.
So you join the force, general purpose?
Yeah, general
Police?
duties. Yeah, general duties, uniform.
And then at what point, I mean, there's lots of things you can do in the police, right? So at what point was it dog squad?
Yeah, well, that was, mate, from when I was 6. Like, before I joined the job, I was like, that's what I want to do. So I joined at 19. I was in the dog squad at 22. So I was there was only one guy who was on my training course that was younger. He was 21, I think. So him and I were the two youngest guys that ever got in that unit. Normally you've got to be in for a while. And, mate, it was like at 22, in my opinion, it wasn't the police departments. They gave me a dog, a gun and a car. Go berserk, no supervisor, work on your own, 22 years of age. So I just went berserk, like went to every job I could go to. There's no paperwork. So it's just all the violent stuff. So to me, it's like a good B-grade cop movie.
10 foot tall and bulletproof.
Awesome, mate. So much fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you got out, like you said, you got a daughter, a couple of kids.
Yep. So I got 2 daughters now, 15 and 12. So I got out in 2005. I got out of the police in 2002. My first daughter, Kalani's 2005, and her sister, Michaela, 2008.
Yeah.
And, mate, they were really a sliding door moment. That was a real moment, sitting in the delivery room with my 15-year-old now and just looking at her going, holy shit, like there was a whole – she was born had a thing called meconium where they have like fluid in their lungs so they can't breathe. So they took her away, suctioned that out. By the time they brought her back, everybody was tied up with her mum, at the next stage of the birthing process. So I'm sitting in the corner of the room with my daughter, just looking at this little kid, and I'm just like looking at her going, holy fuck.
I'm a dad.
I'm a dad, and I'm a pretty loose unit.
I need to sort my shit out.
100%.
Yeah, that's
mate,
awesome.
She absolutely changed my life, no
Kids
doubt about
are
it.
so good for that, eh?
Oh, mate, unbelievable.
So we're in the process of being loose.
Yep.
And having your first daughter, and then where was it that you went, I'm going to help people?
Yeah, sure. Mate, it was really, so I obviously joining the police, that was a driving force. Like joining the cops was about helping people and making a difference. But I didn't ever put it together as coaching people or mentoring people, what I do now, until probably 2010, 2011. Mate, I went and, saw a psychologist, psychiatrist, standard, but quickly realised there wasn't really much in that other than medication stuff. So I went to heaps of like alternate hippie healers with, acupuncture, or meditations, hypnotherapy, you name it. I went and did all of it. So I was working with this chick who's a kinesiologist, this mad hippie chick, and she said to me one day, hey, listen, I don't feel like I can charge you anymore because I don't know who's coaching who. And I was like, oh, right. So I've been sort of going to see her every couple of weeks for about a year. And then her and I I was still working full-time in commercial property. Then I started doing some more coaching with other people through her business. Just naturally realised that I had a bit of a natural affinity because I just give a shit. So at the end of the day, I think the knowledge I've gotten everything over 15 years was driven out of my own evolution and still is. So I'm in that obsessive personality of going, well, if I can be this good now, if I can work harder and be better, why wouldn't I? And then naturally, mate, just sort of tripped into it. And then I was just sort of helping people that were close to me, friends and different things. And then, mate, it just sort of morphed into where I was coaching part-time, working full-time. And then 2.5 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, that's when I kicked off full-time.
Yep. Oh, man, that's it's crazy how you can be getting help and then someone's like,
absolutely,
you help me.
Yeah.
How good's that? So I met you in 2014.
Yep.
What do you think it is? Like, it's easy to say, eat right, train.
Yeah, for sure.
Fucking sleep properly.
Correct.
And your life's going to be awesome.
Yep.
What do you think it is behind that?
Yeah. It's belief, mate.
Yeah.
It is 100% self-awareness and self-belief. So self-awareness from the point of view, you just got to know who you are.
Yeah.
So like we were talking about before you came on about our personalities, right? That I go, I know I'm a million miles an hour and I'm pretty extreme in the sense of I don't do anything by halves. If I'm going to go and like I'm running a lot of stairs and stuff at the moment with some of the cert guys, like the SWAT guys. And so I'm doing that 3 days a week. When I did CrossFit, I did that full on. When I do meditating, I do it every day. That's just my personality. So that's self-awareness. But then the belief, and the big thing for improving life, business, anything, you got to believe it's possible.
Yeah.
Because if you're going in, there's a whole lot of neuroscience and stuff behind it. And I'm just reading a book in the moment by a guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's amazing. Like, watch some of his videos for your listeners. He's great. If your thoughts and your beliefs aren't aligned, then you literally can't achieve anything. Yeah. So if you're going into a fight, like when we first met and we worked a lot on mindset and stuff for you, a lot of what we sort of looked at was that you've got to believe it can happen and have that, you got to think it can happen and believe it can happen. You've almost got to be able to create that feeling that it's already happened to be able to achieve it. Does that make sense?
Like it's like when you go into something, you're like, I can't be beaten because you believe.
Absolutely.
You believe it, but you also think it. So you already think about how it's going to happen. You believe it's going to happen.
Totally.
And you're unbeatable.
You think and I've never been a professional fighter, but for me in the dog squad, that was like my sport. Like I loved that. That was like a full-time sport for me. Like I felt like a professional athlete in the sense of getting paid to do something I do for free. Yeah. And every job I went to, I would drive like an absolute madman, get in fist fights 3 or 4 times a week, chasing guys with guns and knives. And at no point, like I had fear, heaps of fear, but at no point did I believe that I was going to get killed or hurt. So I didn't.
Well, speaking about that fear, because I talk about this with people all the time. So you got the fear of the unknown, and the fear of the known, right?
Yep.
So the unknown is you get a call on the radio, instantly filled with fear, but filled with adrenaline. Do your job, right?
Totally.
There's the unknown and all that sort of stuff. But it's like you don't know what to expect, but it's happening now. It's like getting into a street fight, right? Yeah. It's not preemptive. You didn't know it was going to happen. You know, it just happens. And then you got fear of the known. So you're sitting out the back in a dressing room.
For sure.
And you're like, I'm going to fucking fight a dude that's going to try and hurt me.
Yep.
And there's a good chance I could go to hospital after this. Like the fear of all the known and then those other things that play into your head. I recently did a chat with, actually, it was a bunch of CrossFitters.
Okay.
They weren't all CrossFit. They were a Game Faster sponsored athletes.
Oh, yeah,
and
cool.
So there was runners and CrossFitters, and there was
because you can tell how someone does CrossFit.
Olympic lifters. Right. Well, I'm looking at one
because I'll tell you.
Yeah, the same people that do jiu-jitsu.
Exactly. Yeah. Correct.
So anyway, I was talking to them. You've messed up my train of thought now.
The athletes,
because I'm 100%. About you messed me up.
So you're getting sorry, mate. You're getting faster athletes and the fear of the known.
Yep. So, and I was talking to them about it. I'm like, competition's the same for everyone. It doesn't matter whether you're fighting, doing CrossFit or whatever it is. If you have to sit, think about your workout, think about your fight, think about your competition, whatever the competition is, then you start thinking about everything that's going through your head and, you know, what happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? And I often get asked what the difference was between when I started working with you and when I competed. Yep. And I don't know the answer.
Yeah, cool.
So it's a weird thing. I think that our thought process is obviously it's so powerful. But being able to control it's an incredible feeling.
Mate, I think the simplicity is, and if we go into the very simple version of when we met, right? And there was a number of fights you'd lost, and four, and it was a mental thing, right? So, and there was Gene Sooner from Again Faster contacted me and said, "Would I talk to you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, cool." So we had that first chat on the phone, and it was fairly quickly apparent that your skills as a fighter hadn't changed, right? The dream of the UFC was still there, all that was there, but I remember you vividly saying, "If I lose this next fight, I'm done." And I was like, right. And that was, I think, 2 weeks out from when we'd spoken, or 10 days. It wasn't long. Yeah. And I remember going to watch you in that fight, and actually and Rach, my partner, came with me because I know how to show a girl a good time to take her to the fight. So the local tab at Mansfield Tavern, and mate, and I was sitting there watching when you came out, and I was really nervous. And I remember I was sitting next to your brother and his girlfriend, wife, and fiance, and when you walk out, and I'm watching you going, you know, have I done a good job with this guy? What am I doing? I was really curious to see how you go. And as that fight started, and then you were throwing, spinning back kicks and all this sort of shit, and I was looking at you going, and I turned to Rach and I went, fuck, I think he's overconfident. I think I've overdone it. Absolutely. I was like, I think I've overdone it and he's going to get smashed. And then at the end of the fight, when I spoke to you the next morning, you're like, no, I broke my right hand, so I couldn't throw, right hands. Yeah. So I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. But until I knew that, I thought, holy shit, I've built this guy's confidence in himself so far that now he's dancing around being showboating, and I hope he doesn't get knocked out. But it was because it's a simple thing. Mindset and belief are so simple compared to that fear and adrenaline. The easiest way to describe it, the limbic brain is your caveman brain, is what determines fight or flight. So when you're in a street fight, it just happens. So you don't have time to think about it. So you have physiological fear of adrenaline of, do I fight or do I run, a literal fight or flight response. Stress is that anticipation of what's going to go bad, which is fear, because it's totally unnatural to go and get in a ring and fight a guy when you've known for 6 months you're going to do that, or 3 months, or whatever the case may be. Same as in the dog squad, it's absolutely against your natural psychological wiring to stay safe. Same as the military, do a job where you take a firearm and you strap on a vest and then you go out and you go looking for trouble. Most people avoid trouble like the plague, but you eventually get to a point where you've wired your brain in such a way that fear isn't, well, you can override it. Most people can't override fear. Yeah. I think military training, police training, and then definitely fighting for you, isn't it? Like, I'm now at the point where I'm tougher and stronger mentally than I've ever been, and I have less fear than when I was 22 and going to an armed robbery where a guy had a gun, where I was shitting myself, but I was like excited at the same time. Mm-hmm. And in that time, I often say, like, people go, do you get scared doing that? I go, nah, because you don't have time to think. If you're driving 140 kilometres an hour to a guy with a gun, you haven't got time to think about the fear. You're just trying to fucking get there. Yeah. Afterwards, you have an adrenaline dump and the fear kicks in. You're like, holy shit. And that's where the PTSD stuff and that comes in. Fighting is the opposite, my opinion, and having not been a pro fighter, you would go, as you're coming into a fight, you're thinking about it the whole time. The damage for people in military and police is the aftermath where you get to think through it. The damage for fighters is you do that process before you fight. So that's probably why I don't think there's that same impact.
Well, I think I can only talk military, but I think like there's a degree of they prepare you very well for war. But I feel like there's a lack of liveness to what you do. A lot of blank rounds, a lot of fucking crawling through the bush for no reason, to be honest with you. Yeah. There's a lack of liveness. Yep. And then you do it and you have and I mean, you can't have someone shoot at you. Yes. You know what I mean? But there's no...
lack of reality.
Yeah, there's no reality. So when you get hit with those violent, hostile situations, it's new to you anyway.
Yeah, totally.
And that's where, everyone reacts different to things, but that's essentially where the PTSD comes from. Yeah, is people just, they're not really ready for it.
Well, and that's a difficult part, mate. You can't be.
If I put a guy in a cage who I'd trained but not really prepared him properly, like let's say he did no sparring, he's hit pads,
yeah, for sure,
grappling technique, no sparring, no submissions. I put him in there, and you fucking beat the shit out of him and then choke the life out of him, and he taps. He's going to be fucking messed up after that.
100%,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So it's not normal. But there's massive difference in the fear of the two situations, right?
Totally.
One's known, one's unknown.
And mate, hence why you see, I've done boxing and a bit different martial arts over the years, never very seriously. But you go, when I learned techniques in the police, but it was more violence of action. So to me, it was, I had literally would be in three physical altercations a week for, 9 years. So I was still scared to fight, But when I was in it, I'm like, oh, this is the shit. Like, I love this.
Yeah.
And so I never really got badly injured. I also never put anyone in hospital. Like, people would, it was more my willingness to fight, I think, and violence of action that has people stopped in their tracks. But when you look at someone, you know, and why you watch videos of, you know, road rage incidents and stuff, and you get, you know, the typical roid boy wankers who've been to their local Muay Thai or MMA gym and think they're hard as nails, and they get out and then they just throw on haymakers because they've never actually been hit.
Yeah.
Because when you're in a real fight, in the cage or in the street, that's totally fucking different.
Yeah.
That's totally different.
Yeah.
So I can, you know, with all my 3 lessons of BJJ experience, I can, you know, roll around on the ground and get choked out in...
You've got a nice gi butt.
I do. Yeah. I look good in it too. I got my sponsor gave it to me.
Yeah.
Base training. So they, so you know, if you choke me or whatever, and we're rolling to learn a technique, then there's a safety in that because I know you're not going to hurt me, right? When I'm on the street, then my fear kicks in. Your prefrontal cortex shuts down, so the front part of your brain shuts down, which is the part that's learnt those techniques, and you go straight to fight or flight, and that's why people throw haymakers and go stupid. Whereas if you've drilled that fear response by sparring, by being choked out with weapons, with whatever it is in police, military, fighting, whatever, then when you've drilled it enough, you get to a point where that's not a shock response, hence how you keep that fear under control.
Makes sense. So the competition part of it, we caught up for 2 hours for our first session, and then like every week for about 14 weeks or something in preparation for that first fight that I won again after my losses. And like, man, to be honest with you, I got no fucking idea what we talked about except for one thing you said to me was what other people think about you is none of your business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that you could never have said anything more important to me in my life.
Yeah.
But it's so simple. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's like little things like, what will people think about this? If I get knocked out, what's my mum going to think? What's my dad going to think? What's my wife going to be like when I lose like a 5th in a row? Like, how am I going to spend my life knowing that I lost my last 5 fights? You know, I need a win to finish. Like, all this sort of like normal shit that people go through in competition. It's normal to think that.
Yeah.
You know? But you said to me at the end of the first meeting that any time I thought about anything, what does this person think about this? I had to say to myself, what people think about me is none of my business.
Yeah, totally.
And I just said it probably for like 2 weeks. So we catch up again. You're like, oh, how you feel? I'm like, fuck, I don't even care what people think about me.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing ever. It was like I trained my brain
to
stop thinking about it.
That's what it is.
By telling myself to stop thinking about it. Explain that to me.
Sure. So, mate, the basic, when you look for you in that scenario, right, and you go, we literally had one meeting and then you fought. That's
no, we met for a couple of hours, I think like back in like a November, and I fought in February.
No, because I'm positive you fought 2 weeks later because the one at the Mansfield Tavern.
That was in February.
Oh, okay. I thought it was earlier.
Yeah, probably had like Christmas, didn't catch up.
Gotcha. Okay, righto.
Caught up like 3 or 4 times.
Gotcha. So what actually happens when you do that whole what other people don't, you know, what other people think of me is none of my business, and so many other things, is you're literally just training a new neural pathway in science. But what you're doing, you're just replacing the negative voice in your head with a positive voice. Yeah. So this is the thing that I talk to people about all the time. When you're talking about, like, and we all have that voice in our head that goes, you're shit, you're no good, you shouldn't be doing that, you look fat, you're bald, you're like whatever. You're hopeless at that. People think you're an idiot.
Fat and bald for ages.
Yeah, but you carry it off well. Yeah. So when you look at that, everybody has that voice in their head, but nobody talks about it, right? And the easiest way to explain it, I go, if we all had a TV screen above our head when we walked around in the street, and you could read what people thought, we would all be locked in straitjackets. Yeah. Because we talk to ourselves just so disgustingly, so harshly. If you spoke to me the way that I speak to myself, I'd want to fight you. Yeah. Like that's just how we are. But we just accept that as normal. Then we go, you know, Tony Robbins or whatever, like these personal development sort of gurus go, oh, we should have affirmations and we should do all that. And it sounds like such bullshit. But if you do that, then you're literally replacing the negative voice with a positive one. So when you're saying what other people think of me is none of my business, you're essentially just training your mind to go, you know what? Fuck what they think. What I think's more important. When I go run the stairs with the boys from the SWAT team, like they're all fitter than me, younger than me, much faster. And like my fastest time's 27 and a half minutes. Their fastest time the other day, one of the boys did in 22:08. So when I'm there with them, like if we're doing it together, I'm the slowest and they're waiting for me. But in my mind, I'm not, the old me would have been, you're useless, they're going to think you're a dick, what are you doing here, you shouldn't even be here, you're not in the cops anymore, who do you think you are, you've been out 20 years, what are you trying to hang out with young blokes like, do you think you're cool, like it would be all that negative voice. Yeah. Now I'm like, what an awesome opportunity, just keep pushing harder, keep up with them, it's making you better, you're getting faster, you're killing it, you're 50 years of age, you're fucking smashing it, keep going. Now to me, one of my long-term goals is to be as fit as I am now at 70. So that takes a lot of mental strength, but you just train it. Because when you've got that fear of what people think, that insecurity, that doubt, all that shit that we all have, we trained that. We're not born with that. Mm-hmm. We instill it into our kids. So you look at your son, like he's 3 years of age. He watches you, watches his mum, what people say to him at kindy, all that stuff. Here's how you talk to each other. Here's how all of that. And between birth and 8 years of age, 90 to 95% of our beliefs, personality traits, what we think is possible in the world, how we handle stress, everything is already developed because we're in a theta brainwave state. Yep. So then for the rest of our life, that runs, 90% of that runs in the background in your subconscious you're not even aware of. So if you grew up in tough circumstance, in violence, if you had a mum or dad that was you said you're shit, you'll never amount to anything, then they've just programmed that voice in your head. Mm-hmm. When you get to be any age, but if you get to the age where you realise, holy shit, that's not actually hardwired for me, and you literally just start thinking differently, it changes it. Like it's actually really fucking simple, but not many people talk about it because it sounds woo-woo and it sounds weird.
Well, and because they got to think about themselves. Like if I was sitting at home going, I'm going to tell myself that what they think about me is none of my business, I'd have felt like
an absolute dick.
I would have felt like a dick.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, what are you doing? I would have probably been, the negative thoughts would have been into me. What are you thinking?
Yeah,
you're an idiot.
You're a fucking idiot.
You know what I mean? And then you're negative.
Absolutely.
You talk yourself out of saying the positives.
But the negative thought you accept.
But you sit down with someone. They don't have to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anyone. You sit down with someone like I did with you. It could be anyone. Like I could sit down with my wife and be like, I've been thinking this, and this. She's like, she, he, whoever could turn around and go, stop thinking it. Start telling yourself this. As long as you hear it from other people, you seem to do things a lot more.
And it needs to be. And where the power in what I do is, Damo, is that my personality, when somebody sits down and talks to me, they don't doubt for a second that I believe what I say. Right? So because I'm pretty full on personality, I go, when I sat down with you that day, and we talked about a lot of very personal stuff of yours and different things, so I'm like, mate, that's not even a fucking issue. Yeah. Don't even worry about that. Focus on this, do that. You walked away the same as when I've come a couple of times and rolled with you in BJJ, I'm like, you tell me what to do, I'll do it. Because I trust that you know what you're doing. Yeah. Because of the way I got introduced to you through Gino, someone else you respected, you go, oh, this dude knows what he's talking about. You didn't turn up there going, I don't know if this guy knows what he's talking about.
I wouldn't have went and seen a sports psychologist.
No.
I wouldn't have went and done it myself. It was just that someone said, hey, go talk to this guy.
Yeah.
And then come back and tell me what you think afterwards. And I did. And then, it's so much like, it's not like just bouncing back. It's just like a different way of thinking. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like when I went into that fight, it was like, and you said, how did you feel afterwards? And I was like, I didn't feel like I'd just come off any losses.
No.
It was fucking weird.
You were so calm, mate.
And I still to this day, you can't turn it around and pinpoint anything, but I always put it back to that one phrase, which was
totally
what other people think is none of your business. And I still think about it. I still talk about it. And, in not the same kind of way, but when people are talking about things, I'm like, it doesn't fucking matter anyway. 'Cause
totally.
That person's not going to change the outcome of this, so you don't even need to worry about it. Things like that.
And the thing for you, mate, and this sounds really cocky for me to say this, but if you use the example of you as a coach, when a fighter gets in the ring, a good coach, in my opinion, in anything, but let's say a good MMA coach, when your fighter gets in the ring, you have instilled such a level of confidence in them and such a level of belief and understanding that they don't really feel like you've done much. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I get this with clients all the time, which I love. Like they'll go to me, oh man, yeah, like I was talking to a guy the other day that I've just done 12-week mentoring program with, and he's like, dude, like he's 40 kilos overweight. He's doing stairs. Like he's crushing it. Lost 12 kilos in 3 weeks or something. Like he's on fire. And I'm like, as well as his profession, he's done a heap of stuff. And I said, what's different? He goes, I don't really know. I think I've just got more structure in my life. And I said to him, but you could have just had more structure before. What do you reckon it is? And for me, I can't really put my hand on what I do with people. Like it sounds weird, but I've got a really good ability, and I think through years in the cops and different things, I'm a very emotionally connected person. Like I'm a super emotional person. So I know how to read people. So I know how to sit down with you and get the best out of you, and then sit down with, if there's a 14-year-old girl I'm helping at the moment who's some self-harming issues and different things, and be able to connect with her. But it's that willingness to be vulnerable and open and emotionally connected to people instead of trying to learn shit in a book and spit it back.
Yeah.
And that's where I think most people fail.
Yeah.
As a coach, how to...
That's just being real.
100%, mate. Just don't be full of shit.
There's just a lot of fake fucking people out there.
100%.
If you're just real with people and honest with people and upfront with people, and you give them
and give a shit,
straight answers, and show them that you care,
absolutely,
people will connect to you.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then they'll let their guard down as well.
Because they then get, you give a shit. And when you come back to what people think of me is none of my business, we all want to be loved and connected from, in a caveman sense, from a tribal sense. If you didn't belong to a tribe, you died. That's what drives our fear. Yeah. Because if you and I were in a tribe and, if something happened and I was ostracized from that tribe as a caveman, and that's where that fight or flight basis was built, that software was built, then I died. Because I didn't have shelter, protection, food, whatever. That still drives us. Because if I walk out of this podcast interview and you're like, man, Shaun's a dick, what happens? Like, to the rest of my life, nothing, right? Like I'd cry, I'd be really upset for a while. But
you walked into it like that. So
yeah, exactly.
You're gonna walk
that's right. So it's not actually going to make any difference in my life, right? Yeah. But we put so much emphasis and so much weight on this shit. But if you just care about, if you care about other people, but if you are seriously more concerned about what you think of yourself than what other people think, mate, I honestly can say my opinion of me is the most important, more than my partners, my kids, whatever, and I've worked hard to get there. And it is through meditation, nutrition, all those things. But I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks, but I will listen to what everybody says.
Yeah.
Important. So if you say, mate, I reckon you're arrogant, and one of the things I'm really cautious about in my life is making sure I'm not too arrogant. Well, I'm not arrogant. I'm not too confident. I'm not arrogant. I'm not full of myself, because I have got that personality. Like I'm well aware that that's an opportunity, a possibility. So I'm really careful in that. And because of what I do now, like I get a lot of praise from people and different things. So I go, yeah, I could end up being a dick if I'm not careful. But the underlying thing is I do it to help other people. It's not about my ego.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes at me on social media, whatever, which rarely happens, but if they do, I look at what they say, because the best tool for self-awareness to know who you really are and where your improvement lies is when people say shit to you, because nobody ever comes at you with shit that's not true or they don't think is true.
Yeah.
I'm not going to come at you and go, Damo, you're an idiot because you're fat and you're lazy and you can't fight. Like, I'm not going to say that to you, because that's obviously proven to not be the case, right? If I come at you and go, you think you're better than you are, and you're full of shit, and you're fucking just arrogant, and you want to run your own, elite community of fighters, and you don't care about anyone, then that could be possible.
Yeah.
Now it's not.
No.
But you listen. Nobody's going to come at you and say you're fat and
They're
useless.
They're not going to spit on like false facts.
100%.
Yeah.
So listen to the criticism.
Yeah.
And then look at it and filter it yourself through your own honesty. Be really honest with yourself and go, I had someone say to me a few months ago, you're uber confident. I said, is that a compliment? They're like, I'm not sure. So, and I literally go, okay, I do a lot of social media. I've written books. I do all this stuff. I go, I'm very, very upfront and honest about who I am. I do believe, that I'm really good at what I do. But I still look and go, okay, what's driving this? Is it ego? Is it because you want people to like you? And of course that's part of it. But the majority part is I want to have a massive impact. So when I want to have a massive impact and help people, that naturally stops me being arrogant. Then if somebody thinks I'm arrogant, I look at it and I sort of shuffle it around and look at whether it's true. I'll talk to some people I really trust that are close to me, and I'll also think to myself, why are they saying that? If it's an opposition gym owner to you, then you go, maybe they're saying that because of their insecurity or whatever. If it's your wife saying, mate, I think you're an arrogant cockhead.
She's probably just angry because I didn't buy a lounge.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's probably fair enough.
Yeah.
So it really is just, there's no hard and fast answers.
Yeah.
You can't just discount everybody's opinion.
No.
But if you listen to everybody's, it's going to do your head in.
Of course.
You don't know what's true.
Yeah. So you're doing the Strong Life Project.
Uh-huh.
Okay, which you hadn't even written a book for when I first started.
No.
Actually, you were writing the book.
Yep.
When we first met. And then you released your book.
Yep.
So can that be bought anywhere?
Yeah. So if everything I do, if you go to thestronglifeproject.com, the book's called My Dark Companion. If you Google My Dark Companion, it's on Amazon, it's on everywhere. It'll be on Audible soon. I'm doing that soon. So the Strong Life Project came out of conversations with people like you. Then I got to the point, because I think I might have just started it in that words, but the Strong Life stands for living with strength, tenacity, resilience, optimism, nurturing, and generosity. They're the 6 attributes. So if you live with those 6 attributes, then you'll live an amazing life. And that's the strength to be who you want to be. Tenacity to get up when you get knocked down, the resilience to, no shit can always, the resilience to get up when you get knocked down, the tenacity to find the way, the optimism to know that things always get better, nurturing of yourself and the people close to you, and then the generosity of you to other people. Mm-hmm. Those 6 things to me are pretty simple. If you live in that, then you're going to live a strong life. You're going to live a good life. It's pretty black and white.
Yeah. Where did the idea of the book come from?
A lot of people, so the book is my story, like from a kid all the way through police, and then, I launched it in 2017 maybe. I published it. So that was really, just as I spoke to different people, that was sort of like, mate, I love what you do, your story, because I use a lot of my own experience of things I fucked up over my life to go, you can go one or the other way. Because so many things that I loved in my life, but I was pretty, like all through my 20s in the police, I was, good at my job and I loved it, but the rest of like relationships, everything else was pretty destructive. So when I wrote that all down, somebody said to me, you should write that down, I reckon it'll really help people. So I just sat down and wrote it, and I literally, again, that personality that I have, and I think you're the same, I didn't know how to write a book. I just sat down and Googled non-fiction book, how many words? And something said 75,000 words, and then I cut it up into 50 chapters at 75,000 words and just started writing.
Fuck, when you say 75,000, I'm already lost.
Yeah, me.
How am I going to write 75,000 words on myself?
Me too. So what I did was it started in the introduction, then it just went chronologically through my life.
Yeah.
And then I went back and chopped it up and edited it. Now, what I found out of that, back to what people think of me, was the best thing I've ever done. All of my deeper secrets and fears are in that fucking book. Mm-hmm. So all the stupid shit I've done, all the stuff that people could come out of the woodwork and go, I knew him when he was 25 and he was a dick and he did this. Or, he left the police with PTSD and depression. Stuff that nobody knew about back then. Now that's the platform that I run my business on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a shit who knows I had PTSD and depression. Who knows if I lay in bed like that? I did lie in bed with a Glock in my hand 3 nights in a row going to kill myself, that I battled suicidal thoughts for years and years, and still at times those dark thoughts pop up. But I realise now that's just a road, that's a red flag that something in my life's out of whack. But putting all that in a book was so freeing. It was the best thing I ever did. Yeah. Now I literally don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. And if I bump into someone I haven't seen for 20 years that used to hate me, they go, oh, you used to be arrogant. I go, yeah, that's in chapter 7.
Yeah.
It's all written down there.
Yeah.
The advantage that people tell me about reading it, and I get people from the States, from all over the world, who send me messages and go, mate, your book was amazing. It really changed my life. It's like I'm reading it going, it's my story. And this might be a 25-year-old woman who went through, sexual abuse as a kid, who lives in London. I go, we have nothing in common, but it's just a book about the normal challenges in life. Yeah. And when you realise everybody has shit, we just all think we're the only ones.
Yeah. Well, we're all worried about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So the dark companion.
My dark companion.
My dark companion. Yeah. All right. So the Strong Life Project as a business.
Yep.
And helping people.
Mm-hmm.
You do obviously still do stuff with police.
Yeah, mate. So I do some critical stress training with police. I'm doing a lot with military at Soldier Recovery Centre now, and some other things with the Australian Army. I do. I'm doing a lot more culture and leadership stuff in corporate. So one of the things that I find, I did 15 years in commercial property, and my standard joke is I met more psychopaths there than I did in the police because it's just full of dicks. Now, I met some really good people, but a lot of people in that sort of property sales type industry are quite arrogant. It's about how much your watch is and how cool your suit is and which BMW you drive more than whether you're a decent person.
Yeah.
So off the back of that, I now talk a lot about culture and leadership, and it's about that emotionally connected leadership, giving a shit about people. The same reason that I have no doubt that your members at your gym love you because you give a shit and you're a good guy. If you're an arrogant dick who is just, if you're walking around with your UFC belt on every training session just so people knew that you fought in the UFC, they'd think you're a dick, right? Yeah. Now, I know you wear around at home all the time, but that's a different thing. So you go, when you just care, then people follow you.
Yeah.
Then you can lead people. So I do a lot around that. I do 12-week one-on-one mentoring programs with people. That's 6 weeks, 2 hours a week intensive like we did, and then 6 weeks at the end, that's where they have access to me anytime as they implement things in their life. Because what I do different to anyone else I've found, it's about, it sounds wanky, but it's about teaching people to fish, not giving them the fish. So it's an old saying that if I give you a fish, you eat for a day. If I teach you to fish, you eat for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. So for me, I want to get clients in for 12 weeks, work with them, and then never see them again.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I do see them again, and I've got a Facebook group with my mentoring clients on that in, and they, develop strong relationships with them. But I don't have a model where you're with me for 5 years. I go, if you're with me for 12 weeks and you haven't made some significant fucking change, I'm either letting you down or you're not doing the work.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's that one-on-one, and then, mate, I'm doing online courses and heaps of different stuff.
Yeah, cool. And so with being so honest with people,
mm-hmm.
telling them what really is wrong and things like that, you would face a fair amount of, backlash, kickback.
Yeah, no. And it's really weird, right? And I tell you why. Because I'm really loving and connected to them. As weird as to use that language as a 50-year-old man mentoring people, to go, I'm loving, sounds a bit weird. Now, I'm really vulnerable, I'm really loving, I'm really connected with them. So I've said some pretty horrific things to people. Like I'm working with a couple of guys who are quite overweight, and I finished working with one of them, and when I sat down with him the first day, he's a partner at a law firm, awesome dude, and he would not mind me telling you this story because he thinks it's funny. Now, he's a full-on personality. Him and I sat down and had a coffee one day, and he's like, so, look, I think I want to work with you. When we first sat down, he goes, so I just wanted to interview you and see what you're about. And I said, well, be aware, mate, I'm interviewing you as much as you're interviewing me, right? And he sort of looked at me funny because he's a guy, he's a lawyer, he's a litigator, very good at what he does. So, people don't say no to him very often. And he's quite he's 40 kilos overweight. And we're sitting there talking, and he goes, so, okay, yeah, mate, I want to work with you. So I guess we just work out the structure. I said, okay, that's interesting. What do you think the structure should be? And he goes, well, let's just work. Maybe we'll catch up twice a week. You give me some structure around training and, diet, and we'll do that for a couple of months and see how that goes. I go, yeah. I said, the other option is you do what I fucking tell you to do because this is my backyard, not yours. Yeah. I said, we work for 12 weeks together, 2 hours a week for the first 6 weeks. Then 6 weeks after that, we implement it. No alcohol, no this, no that. He goes, I'm not sure if that's what I'm looking for. I said, well, let me be very clear. I said, you're a fat sack of shit because you're not doing what you need to fucking do in your life. And he goes, fair call. Can we start tomorrow?
Yeah.
And literally, but because it wasn't aggressive, I was loving and connected to him. And he says to me, him and I are great friends now, and he goes to me, no one's ever called me on my shit like that. Because I'm willing to do it, but it's not because I want to be right. It's because I want to have impact. Yep. So it's a very different way to deliver it. Now, if I was operating in fear and insecurity and I don't know if I'm good at what I do and I actually didn't give a shit about him, I just wanted more money in the bank, then he will pick that up energetically. You pick that up in people.
Yep.
So I don't often get a lot of, I have people say Shaun's challenging. I have a lot of people on my podcast reviews and stuff go, Shaun's black and white, very challenging. It's not for the faint-hearted or whatever. But it's never, people don't, they don't tell me, they find it offensive, which I'm surprised at because I think I can be offensive.
Yeah. You can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's only if you take offense to it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Depends on how you look at it.
It's all about love.
So we covered a fair bit. Basically, for anyone in particular, so there's no one in particular that like anyone can reach out to you.
Yeah, mate,
Individual
absolutely.
Groups.
Yeah, absolutely.
Businesses, companies, the lot.
Yeah, so individuals I work with all the time, group like police, military, any business. So the thing for me, why I call it human behaviour and high performance, I will often get people reach out to me and go, what do you do? And the difficult thing for me is I do anything to do with human behaviour and anybody who wants to improve who they are. If that's a 14-year-old girl, like I said, who has some challenges, or it's a 50-year-old guy like me, then if there's something in your life you want to improve or you want it to be better, either personally, in your business, at your company, if you want to be a better leader, if you want to be more healthy and fit, which is, that's a no-brainer. That all comes with that. But anything to do with anything in life that you want to improve and you want to change, just jump on the stronglifeproject.com, shoot me an email because I'm happy to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And the other thing for me is I'm not trying to sell people shit. I go, if you resonate with me and you like what I do, then let's work together. If you don't, that's cool. I'm not going to be sending you fucking follow-up emails with, 7 emails that are some sort of sales sequence bullshit. I just don't do that stuff because I don't believe in it.
No.
If you want to get a sense of more of who I am, I guess, than you have here, and you probably have got a fairly good sense here, is go to the Strong Life Project podcast. So I do about 10 or 12 minutes a day. I've done 1,550 episodes over the last 4.5 years. And I get a lot of good feedback. People love that. So it's probably a really good place to start.
iTunes, are you on Spotify?
Spotify, iTunes,
YouTube?
Google Play. No, not on YouTube.
No YouTube yet.
No YouTube
Gary
yet.
V would tell you need to be on YouTube.
He would. I have got YouTube videos, but it's not my podcast.
All right, cool. So the Strong Life
Project podcast.
on iTunes, Spotify. I do follow it.
Well, do you? Doesn't sound like you do.
I do listen to it. My memory's shot, mate.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today, man. I really appreciate it.
Awesome,
we
mate. Loved
covered
it.
heaps. We will have you on again.
Definitely.
It would be an honour. So, guys, what other people think here is none of your business. Remind yourself of that. Start thinking positively. And if that doesn't help, reach out to Shaun, thestronglifeproject.com.
Thanks, mate. Been a pleasure.
Mate. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for that.
See ya.